to go over. And the things I look at, first thing I look at is usually when I walk around a truck is damage. Front bumpers, wheels, tires, hit the tires, like to open the hood. Let's get the hood open, all right. So usually before I drive a truck in the yard, I walk around it, front the tires, make sure nothing's dragging or falling off or anything like that. So just walk around, kick the tires, look at them. Dig the steering shaft. Take a look at the drag link. Down here, if you take a look at the brakes, I'm going to kind of start at the front of the truck and we'll work our way back. Take a look down at the brakes. The brake shoe lining, like this one here, I would say it almost needs to be replaced. 1/4 inch minimum on the front brakes and on the back brakes in the center of the drum. Okay?
Did I make those brakes 1/4 inch minimum?
And then if it has disc brakes or rotor brakes on it, or drum style brakes. Another thing is reach in the brake drum and see how big of a lip is in there if you can get your hand in there. That'll tell you the condition of the brake drum. If you can feel a decent lip, the drum's probably
So you're
worn
feeling
out.
for scoring in there?
Well, no, I'm feeling for a lip, right on the outside edge.
Okay.
Reach in, and if it's got a big lip, it's a good chance the brake drum's out of service, basically. It's oversized. So that's something you can make note of. Hey, the front brakes are 1/4 inch thin, they're thick, in the center of the shoe, and it's got a big lip on the drum. And that's kind of probably going to need front brakes.
Talking about lips, so you're talking about the
Just the
digging into
outside
metal?
lip.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
just
if
the
it's
outside
dug- yeah,
lip.
it's
Yeah,
got a groove, yeah.
It'll be 1/8 of an inch is going to be worn out. You can just about plan on that. Okay, usually 120 thousandths, which is 60 on each side of the drum, which isn't much. And then, like I said, I like to shake this just to see if there's any play in it. Look at the belts. If you can see the groove part of it, you're checking for big cracks in the grooves in there. Way down inside, usually you can see it on the back side of the pulley. For you guys, just looking at them to buy them, I don't think you really have to worry too much about it. The belts go round and round. That's all you really have to worry about. It doesn't have belts on it. Okay, and this is one of the things that they really want you to look at is the oil filler cap for condensation, water, white, anything like that. If it has an oil filler cap on the valve cover, take that one off. Okay, because the condensation is going to want to go to the highest point of the engine. And that's where you may not see it here and you may see it up there. But it wants to go, the steam wants to go to the highest point of the engine.
So you're looking for just the white gun?
Yeah, the white, gungy, milky yuck. Okay. Like to look at the power steering lines. Is there any leakage? Is it running on the ground? That's just most of this for you guys is visual inspection. Just look at it, make some notes. It'll help us out. Generally, look at the plumbing, all this kind of stuff. We go around and we check all the clamps and all that, which we don't ask you to do. But just look for obvious wear. Just something that catches your eye. I don't know how to explain it to you on what to look for.
Mark, can you tell when they've tried to just coat it with paint and stuff? There's
That there's problems? Not really. Not really.
you see an older engine with an older truck with newer paint on the engine. Is that?
Well, that could be an indicator that somebody really liked to take good care of it, or they put an engine in it, or because you're not going to hide an oil leak with paint.
Right.
Okay. And while you're looking at the engine, especially this type of an engine, any one of these things could be leaking fuel. So you want to look for anything that's wet, weeping, fuelish wise. Touch underneath the fuel filter, see if it's damp. Just kind of run your hand along things. Oil staining. This one happens to be very nice and clean because we had it steam cleaned yesterday. Points to look in is if you look in here, a lot of your major oil leaks on this engine are up here around the camshaft and where it comes down here, and it'll run down next to the air compressor, it'll run down the block, and it'll drip on the ground. And it's right in the crack in there. And that's what you want to as far as oil leaks, that's what you want to look for. Is it dripping on the ground, and what side of the engine is it leaking from? I think Zach has some notes about where to look and that kind of stuff on it. Front suspension, there's not much you can really do about it. Just, I don't know how to tell you to look at it because there's just too many facets to the front suspension. shackles and hangers are the ones we have the biggest problems with. If you look back there and the spring is touching the hanger that the spring hangs from, you definitely got worn out suspension. If you see that, it's definitely worn out. You won't ever see it, but where this is actually rubbing against that. And another point is these things here will rub up on the bottom of the frame and they'll dig into the frame if they're too worn out. Yeah. But that's, you almost have to crawl under for that. Look at the hood, any broken hood springs, hood cables. Kenworths are good for cracking up around where the bolt goes through, the hood stop bolt right there. They usually break the hood right in half because somebody dropped the hood a couple times. The little pointer things here, that's where the hoods sit on. Are they loose? Are they broken? Are they missing? Same with their little receptacles. Where they go in up there? Are they broken? Or is the hood broken around them? Where the hood mounts, if you just look kind of over in the hinges over there, this is a fiberglass hood. It could be broken and cracked, so as you walk around, just stick your head in things and just look for cracks or something that really doesn't look right. I mean, front bumper's obvious. Front bumper. Grill, hood, I think Zach mentioned, we'll take a look at that kind of stuff. This here is the air dryer. Not much you can do about it. You just pray it doesn't leak when you're building up air, and hopefully it'll get home. Same thing for oil leaks. Is there any oil running down the valve cover? Where does the oil leak start at? Does it start below the exhaust manifold? Does it start above the exhaust manifold? There's a lot of information just right there alone. Oh, the engine's clean, you know, above the exhaust manifold, but it's, and that'll tell us, oh, is the head gasket leaking? Is oil cooler leaking?
So if it's above, it's your head gasket?
Well, if it's above it, it's usually just rocker box valve cover. You know, it's just top end stuff. It's not taking the head off of it. It's easy to repair. Same thing with this, you know, is it leaking down the side of the block? The oil cooler runs the whole side of the block here. It starts at that end, it's that flat plate with the studs coming out of it, and it runs all the way down to this end of the engine. Oil and water both are together in that area. Okay, the oil cooler actually sits inside the block, and it looks like heater cores or whatever stuck in there, and they got water running through them and oil passing through the outside of them. Those are in there. This one here, the EGR valve is right here. That's some of the emission stuff. I don't think you'll have to worry about that. EGR cooler is this thing right. These things here will leak. It's bolted right in. This one happens to be bolted right under here. It looks original, like it's never been changed. That cools the exhaust before it goes into the intake. Is what it does. Water and exhaust. This is one of our most common loss of
How
coolant.
does it exhibit itself if it's bad?
It loses coolant. You don't know where it goes.
Is there seepage on the outside at all?
No, it's usually internally.
Internal, okay.
It's usually internally. And that's what we find. When we say we got to change the heat exchanger for the EGR valve, that's what we're changing because it's leaking internally. That's usually, like I think George Smith, I think, did do his. He was losing antifreeze. It was losing it every day, putting a gallon in, you know, a week or something like that. It doesn't leak on the ground. It doesn't show up on the oil cap. It's not in the transmission. Those are where it's all going. All the coolant's going to end up going. Because these things here, the coolant in the transmission, that's a common thing because they use heat exchangers too. A good percentage of the new trucks now, so they actually have antifreeze running through a cooler. Obviously, we've had a few trucks where we've pulled the drain plug. You know, no antifreeze in the engine, no antifreeze in the coolant or in the radiator. Open the drain plug up or pull the filler cap out, and just antifreeze runs right out of the transmission.
How does the tranny?
Yeah, not very good for it either, for prolonged usage. But that does happen. That's a place where coolant will go. You know, it's a mystery place. Oh man, I'm not using it. You know, I'm losing it, but I can't see where I'm going. And as far as coolant, you know, look for stains. This is the coolant they use these days. These wicked stains. This actually doesn't exhibit anything, but you'll see white stains. If you see leaks, you'll see crust growing. You know, especially around O-rings and stuff, O-ring fittings. Just any type of stains. Hoses, just make sure they're connected for you guys. You know, you don't have to tell us if they're all worn out or not unless you see something obvious. Same thing, you want to look up underneath the cab and look at the exhaust and see if it's interfering or broken or black staining around any of the, a leak will be a black line. And I think you guys have been around this long enough, you know an exhaust leak is going to be a black line. You'll see on flex pipe if it goes bad. it will actually start leaking around the coils, and you'll look underneath and you go, oh man, how come it's all black around that flex pipe? Well, the flex pipe's leaking. And that's just another note you can make. I saw a flex pipe leaking under the cab, and okay, that's a 4-hour job or whatever to fix it. So there's something to keep in mind there. Same thing on this side. Want to look at the brakes? You know, are they 1/4 inch thick drums? They got a big lip on them. You can kind of judge it.
Mark, can you touch on oil in the water as well?
Yeah, that's what we were talking. Yeah, oil in the water. Pull the radiator cap. Take a look at it. Watch this be full of it. We hope not. Perfect. It's nice and clean. You'll see the same thing. You'll see gray matter growing around the oil cap. You'll see gray matter grow, you know, down on top, or you'll see oil floating on top of the water. Not a good sign. Usually that means the oil cooler's failed or something like that, where high pressure oil is getting into here. Hopefully you pray it's not a liner or anything like that. If it is, just as well kiss it goodbye. Don't even think about buying it. You know, honestly.
Yeah.
Same when you see water in the engine, I would just turn away from it, because you know it's going to cost $5,000 probably to fix or more. Who knows? You know, you got to buy a heat exchanger for one of these things on every truck you got to buy. You got to kind of think about that and at the price of those things. So, you know, it's up to you. That's the gamble. You know, you buy something with water in the oil or oil in the water. You got to know what you're going to be up against, and that's the thing we hate, because you know that's one of those unforeseen things, and everybody gets hammered on it because it's an unforeseen thing. But you got to fix it, and you're all mad because you got to fix it. It's just like, oh, so it's just something to look for preventative stuff. Batteries are in here. One thing, you guys just need just a truck start. That is the best thing. If you're looking at it at an auction or whatever, it doesn't start. Like when I climb up in the cab of these things, I look at the cab as a whole thing. Any gauge is missing, you know, where a gauge plug has to go, and if there is, what gauge do you think it probably is if you've seen the other trucks? Just notes, just visual. Yeah, some gauge holes are open, blah, 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 you know, just so you can kind of weave and weigh all this when you get in. Windows, power windows, regular windows. A lot of these have manual left, power right. And I made a note on your thing as far as windows. And you can write either both power or right and left or whatever. Usually, and your customers need to know, if it only has a right-hand powered window, it only has a right-hand power mirror. It's not very often they have a dual mirror power, believe it or not, on these trucks.
And then on our 389s out there, like
Yeah,
Sandy's
good.
here.
Yeah, 99%. If it's right, it's only right and right. Power. That's it. Not very often you see dual powers on, unless somebody asks for it. Interior, you know, our trim pieces missing off of it. Is the inside window missing? You know, because it's dual windows on these doors. It's the inside window missing.
Keeper windows.
How do the doors close? You know, Kenworths are real tough to close unless you don't have a window down. You got to crack them about this far. When they close that hard, you know they're closing good. I mean, not hard, but you know they're sealing good. How many times do you have to slam it to open it? Does it open from the inside and the outside? You know, because a lot of them open from the inside, they won't open from the outside, and they're vice versa. You know, so then we have to take the door apart. Try out the power door locks. I get in them, I flip everything. I turn the key on. Does the buzzer work? What lights come on? You know, just for information for myself, but it's just something they visually just look at. Turn the wipers on. Do they work? I really don't care about the blades unless they're scratching the windows. We'll change the blades when they get here. But do they work? Are they intermittent wipers? Do they park? You know, so when you're in there turning it on and starting it up and building up the air, you can fiddle with all that stuff, you know. Flip lights on. I usually turn all the lights on, turn the four-ways on. I get out, I walk around the truck. If I'm taking it somewhere, I'll pull the hand valve down, see if the stoplights work, if it has a hand valve, and that way I know all the lights work. For you guys, you know, do the lights work? If they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. Make notes of what you think don't work. Then the driver will know legally, can I get it home, or do I need to bring some lights with me to get it fixed? You know, that'll kind of help the guy coming out to get it. Like you say, I know there's stories about the Peterbilt headlights, that they're very pricey. I'm not sure which ones are, but I think looking at the headlights is a good thing. Are they damaged? You know, there's a plastic lens broken out of them. And that's just a visual thing. Hey, it looks like it's got a crack in it. Okay. And that way we know a 387, a 2011, or a 14 387, the light's broken. We can look at the price of the headlight and say, you know, that's a $400 or $500 light. Fuel tanks, you know, Are they hung all right? Fuel lines? I don't think you know, that's something we'll have to fix anyway. You know, you want to look for obvious fuel leaks. The guy bringing it home, you know, has he got a tank that's weeping and leaking all over the place. Definitely look under the truck where it's parked at, just to see for puddles. You know, if it's parked on a halfway clean piece of ground. Front tires, back to front tires. I'm sorry, I didn't go there. I like to rub my hand across them. If they're smooth going across them, they're usually the front end's in good shape. If they're cupped, you'll feel a weird thing in your hand going both ways, and you can tell if it's towed out or towed in. I usually, by rubbing the front tire, I can tell you if it's towed out or towed in without even measuring it. So, just and look at the tread. Is it cupping on one side? Is it, you know? I like the truck out there that it's getting ready to go. It has slots on one front wheel and holes on the other front wheel. That's what's going to LA today. That's something I noticed walking around it yesterday. It had mismatched front wheels on it. For you guys, it's just something, another note. Not much to say about drive lines. You're not going to crawl under them. Just make sure they don't look like they're falling out. I mean, there's not much you can do there. You know, you got to pray it gets home. You're not driving it, so you can't check it for road vibrations or anything like that. Air tanks, not much you can do there. Just hope they're not falling off. Now the back suspension. When you're looking at the back end of it, same thing. Feel the brake drums, look at the brake shoes, see how thick they are. A lot of times if they don't have covers on, you can just kind of tilt and, you know, look in there. Airbags, excessive cracks in them. We'll always get the airbags, you know, no matter what, if you guys don't. Airbags usually crack really bad. When you start seeing strings coming off the bottom of them at the bottom of the bulge, they're toast. Okay, we're always going to see little cracks in them like tires. They're just, that's the norm, you know. Okay, brake drums, shocks. Look at them. Are they loose? Are they leaking? If they're leaking, you know, make note. We're going to have to buy shocks, $100 a piece, whatever they cost. Torque arm bushings. These are the important things here. We changed a lot of them. These ones look excellent. What you're going to look for in these, or any type of torque arm bushing that goes any way, is it's still running centered. Even if it runs this way, is it still running centered in its pin? And is the rubber all cracked and blowing out of it? 99% of these air ride Peterbilts, these air, you know, low airs and air leafs and air tracks, this cross bush or this cross arm, the torque arm bushings in it are bad. We always have to take them out and change them. That's kind of the nature of the beast.
What do they cost to replace?
Huh? The bushings, I don't know what they are. They usually take about an hour or so to do if it's a chassis.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe $100 in parts if even that. But still, it's just,
Yeah, they're about $50.
yeah, it's just something, you know, we'll replace it anyway. If that's all we got to replace on the suspension, praise the Lord, we're gonna fix it. You know, we're gonna change that. This particular suspension, if you look down here on this 8-bag, I'm not sure what model 8-bag they call it. I'd have to look it up. But these arms right here, these little trailing arms, they swing up and down. They have rubber bushings in here that they pivot on. So what you're going to do is look for weird looking, you know, does the thing look like it's cocked in there? Does it, you know, are the bushings worn out? Is it rubbing metal to metal? See, right now the rubber, those should be centered up in the rubber and running true. And what they'll do is they'll walk back and forth. The rear ends will walk back and forth. The tires will kind of reflect that. Same thing, you know, hit the tires with your fist, see if there's any air in them. You know, I always walk around, hit them with my fist, see what they sound like. You're not going to be checking the air. Mud flaps, does it have them, does it not have them? Fifth wheel, fixed, slider, articulating. That's three choices pretty much, you know, and I just mark it down. What does it have? This one is adjustable. I didn't put adjustable in. This one's adjustable but not sliding. You see what I'm saying? You can a manual slider. How's that? Do we have to actually unbolt it? You can do whatever terminology, but then that'll help out for you guys when you spec it. You know,
Let's talk about whether or not you have
yeah.
the
See,
ability
this
to
one
do
you
this.
can unbolt it. You manually have to move it. It's tack welded in place, but the guy could cut the welds, move it back, bolt it back down again if you needed to move it. But you got air slider, and then those articulating ones. You know what kind of problems we.
Why would somebody do something like this when there's all these bolts and they still want to hit them well?
Don't ask me. It was just their preference, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Usually they're just bolted down. This one here's got air slider in it here. This one's got airbag suspension. Same with this here. You want to look at the rubbers in here. We end up changing a lot of them. These things should be running parallel, you know, straight ahead, and no rubber flowing out of there. But that's normal wear and tear. Here's the torque arms I'm talking about here. These are the ones we see the most. See this one here, the rubbers are coming out of it. There's a perfect example of one that's starting to fail on you. And what'll happen right here is the rubber coming out of it. This side looks good. What happens, it works its way all the way over. If you look, there's more room on this side than here. It's almost rubbing against there. And you'll see that in here as well. It won't be centered in its bracket. It'll be off to one side, rubbing. And that's a perfect sign that the bushing should be replaced on it. And in fact, I'll talk to Robert about that and have the bushing replaced on that. Airbag, same thing. We put an airbag on it. That one was leaking. We changed the air ride height valve because it had the one that was on there was all screwed up. So we've done that to this truck. This one here has air ride cab. You know, air ride cab on these, usually the bags will leak on them. When you're walking around, you got the air built up in them. Listen for air leaks. You're not going to drive it, so you're not going to know if the shock's any good or not. And these ones with DEF tanks, you want to look at the DEF tank. Is there any? DEF has antifreeze running in it too. Yeah, they have to keep it warm. Yeah, these things got plumbing that you would not believe in them nowadays. So when you say just do this, there's a lot more than just doing it. So it has coolant lines going in it too. If you see antifreeze leaking from the DEF tank, you must have a line that's bad or something. But that will happen. I mean, it will. This one, they don't have antifreeze going in the fuel tank. Some of them will have antifreeze running through the fuel tanks as well. But they have electric heaters in them, and they have antifreeze that runs in them.
Both or just
Oh yeah, electric comes on when you're warming up in the morning until the coolant temperature gets hot enough to keep it warm enough to solidify it. Jim, in fact, where's Jim's? I wanted to show you what happened. What did he do with it?
What's your 86?
Air slide.
Air slide.
Jim took some DEF samples the other day, testing out the system. He did this a couple of weeks ago. And this is what DEF turns into when it's opened into the atmosphere. And each one of these had, I don't know, so many milliliters of product in it, of DEF. Because he had to run 3 consecutive tests, and he ran them in 3 different cups, and he left the DEF in there. It's crystallized, it's hard like glass or whatever, plastic. That's just leaving it, that's like opening a bottle up. You're just leaving it open.
So
I never realized that. I've seen what it does, you know, running, and when it leaks, the crust and all the crap that grows around any exhaust leaks.
Once it's crystallized, it's permanent.
Oh, yeah,
There's
you're
no
not going to
cleaning
hear
it
any
up.
going back from there.
Going back to it. Okay.
Not that I know of.
What kidney stones are made of?
Oh man, yeah, that's pretty interesting though, isn't it?
That's a kidney stone right there. Urea.
Yeah. So it's something to kind of keep in mind. That's how kind of cruddy and corrosive it is. And that's why they run everything through stainless steel lines, and all the lines have heaters running through them. They got wires running through all the DEF lines to carry the product through it. All electrically heated up so it won't freeze, because this is real sensitive to temperature.
So just to get myself, if we opened up the blue cap.
Yeah, eventually I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would. And it's not stirred and heated up and shaken every day. Something to look at in the cab is upholstery. You know, make notes the seat's torn. You know, especially in these Kenworths you get into them, this light's always missing. Kind of a note, the light's missing out of the door. They're just about all of them are missing when we get to them. And this one's got a torn seat in it. I don't know if the salesman made note of that or if the customer buying it knows it. Or should we get it repaired? That would be something that's good to know. See, that's what I have to come in and ask, or Randy has to come and ask, because it doesn't say fix the seat. So I have to come and ask, you guys realize the seat's not bad? We want to fix it. Did anybody see the seat? you know, or make note of it. So that's part of getting in the interior and playing with everything. I flip and play with every one of these things. This thing's got the Cadillac seat. It's got everything you could, every bell and whistle except for electric heating part, which it doesn't have. It's got every lumbar and whatever support end that you could have. Exhaust, you know, there's a rattle. I'd always look for interference. There's a rubbing against the cab, especially in an air ride cab. Bushings will get worn out. You'll find the shields rubbing against the cab. It's you know, ruining the paint on the cab. That's just another visual thing you want to look at and say, look, I've got a little touch-up work, but the exhaust is rubbing on the cab.
Notice on our one on Cindy's here, the exhaust is broken. Is that pretty standard on a lot of these? They start breaking off.
Yes, on the Peterbilt with dual exhaust, let's walk out here. I'll show you. This is something really good to keep in mind. Technology.